Ba-ba-da-da.
Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. That's a
Top
new
of
theme song.
it. Yeah, there he is. Top of the morning, my friend.
Top of the world.
Welcome to First World Third Rails. Your host, Marlon Taylor, aka Mayhem, aka Mr. Very Disruptive today, with my partner in crime, JD, aka JD.
I'm so jealous. You have all these cool monikers. I got
Um, it's growing.
Oh, you're going to have a trifecta soon? You have mayhem, disruptive.
Got another one coming that can't be used in public, but we'll get to that one later.
Oh, so TBD.
Hey,
Hey,
I don't know if this is a third rail, but it's a topic I've been obviously chomping at the bit to talk to you about since
right.
our last session. Um, I've I got a number of messages yesterday, right? And you know the grind that I'm in. By Friday, I'm just a shell of myself because that grind is brutal. Um, But I did have something yesterday I'll touch on later that really kind of uplifted me. I'll touch on that later in our podcast. But first and foremost, I got a number of messages from all of my communication platforms, and it in nature was celebratory, and it prompted me to say to people who were messaging me, you do know that old rich white men do not go to jail. They don't go to jail. What I hope, what we all hope, is that somewhere embedded in this is a lever that can be pulled that forbids him from ever holding public office ever again. That's all I want out of this. We're not going to get what everybody on social media wants. We're not going to see him in a cell. We're not going to see him in an orange jumpsuit. He's not going to jail, not even white collar prison with volleyball courts and pickleball courts. That's not going to happen. He's an old, rich, white man who has manipulated the system all of his life. I remind everybody who has texted me, this is why Colin Kaepernick took a knee. If he were a person of color, if he were a person in a different social economic class, if he were anybody else on the planet, yes, he would be going to jail. But he's not, because he's an old, rich, white dude who has avoided responsibility his entire life for his actions. This is not going to be any different.
I can't argue that. And the added benefit of he's an ex-president, which is a factor.
It is a factor, and with anybody else, again, this is why Kaepernick took a knee. I'm going to go to my toolkit for a second.
Okay.
And I'm going to pull out the P word. We
what
all
word?
know,
P?
yes, P, as
P.
in Peter, Paul, and Mary's an M, but I'm going to pull out the P word. We all know I go to the toolkit and pull out the I word when it comes to MAGA. That's like a moniker that's just stapled to them. But I'm pulling out a different word for them today, because the irony is absolutely pathetic.
Is P pathetic?
Is P pathetic? For years, you and I endured, and we all did, all decent people in America and beyond our shores, for years endured the chant, lock her up, at their rallies. And in that irony, we now have their chosen one who has been convicted, now indicted, soon to be convicted.
God willing.
If this were Hillary, can you imagine? And I love all the
Well,
Hillary.
honestly, Hillary didn't break the same sorts of laws.
Hillary didn't break any laws.
And the quote unquote 33,000 emails rather, only a percentage of those would have been even remotely considered
There was nothing there. There's
problematic.
no that
And
there.
a number of them became problematic in retrospect. In other words, at the time that they traversed her email server, they weren't restricted.
There's no there. There's
There's
never
no
been
there there.
any.
That's actually a better summation.
There's never been any there.
So if it had been Hillary put through the same ringer, they would not have come up.
No, not
And
the
in
same
fact,
ringer.
Well,
Not
I
the
want to
same.
remind you of something. Hillary was put through the same ringer with Benghazi,
Right.
and there was no there there. So when you ask me a question, can I imagine? I don't have to imagine.
We lived
They
it.
did to her when it was not deserved what is currently happening to Trump, and it is deserved. But
Yes.
they are synonymous, so I don't have to actually imagine it.
There's no there. She broke no laws. What I mean by can you imagine if Hillary Clinton had done this? What would have happened to her?
What
And
I'm
that's
telling
the
you, what I'm
that
telling you,
that's
okay,
the
hold on.
that
I
that's
want to
the
answer
him.
your question. This is a good conversation. I want to answer your question. Can you imagine if Hillary had done this, what would happen to her? The answer is, I hope she would go to jail if she had done what Trump is doing.
She would very most certainly go to jail.
Right. So it's an inexact compare. I'm not challenging you. It's an inexact comparison.
How is it inexact?
Well, because I want to clarify what it is we're comparing. I would imagine that if Hillary were in this position, that the Democrats would be saying there's no there. Arguably,
No. I refuse.
I
I
may be
refuse to allow
misunderstanding
that.
because you said imagine it, and I don't have to imagine it because it happened with
I
Benghazi.
refuse to
One is
allow
guilty,
that.
the other is actually not guilty.
I refuse to allow that statement because
Which one?
that Democrats would have come to her aid. Yes,
Oh, come
but
on.
when we bring
We're all
when-
inclined to
when
disregard
we
evidence.
when we break the law, we hold ourselves accountable. There is a very big fucking difference between the Republican Party behavior and the Democratic Party behavior. Now, people can argue that all they want, but that is
There's some
exactly
truth to it.
there's nothing but truth to that.
Who was the comedian? Al Franken.
Thank you.
That's a good example of
Thank you. I was trying to remember his name to
the
come up
problem with that example is it points out a progressive slash
Is Al Franken
weakness, which is overreaction.
Is Al Franken currently in the Senate? No.
No, he's not, and he's the Democratic Party self-regulated.
Yes. And therein lies the fucking difference. So I refuse to accept, had Hillary committed federal crimes, that we would whitewash that or spin that like they are doing. No. Everybody under the law should be held accountable equally. And we know that's not the case with them. We know he is not going to jail. All I ask out of all of this is that he is the only way he can still run if he's indicted. The only way that he cannot seek federal office or the office of the president is if he is convicted. Because you cannot be president as a convicted felon. That I do know. And so,
as far as I know, he could still be president.
We need to double check that. He can run indicted, but you cannot hold the office of president if you're a convicted felon.
It might be the type of crime. If it's a federal crime,
It's a felony. You cannot be president of the United States if you are convicted of a felony. That is as simple as our laws get.
I'm asking.
Indicted, yes. Convicted, no. You can't even get a fucking job as a convicted felon in this country. Come on, you can't hold the office of president, dude.
I'm not arguing. I'm just asking.
There is no argument. This is a
Well,
fact.
there.
This is a fact.
Okay,
This is-
so okay, hold on. It says yes, a person can be president if convicted of a federal felony. The Constitution does not specifically prohibit convicted felons from running for president. The only requirements are that the person be a natural born citizen, at least 35 years old, and have been a resident of the United States for 14
I
years.
think AI is wrong on that.
Those are the three requirements.
I think AI is wrong. You
And
can't,
they
you
cite
can't.
examples of a guy named Eugene Debs in 1920 who was serving a prison sentence for sedition, ran for
Listen,
president.
listen.
No, it's bad news.
No, it's not bad news because AI is wrong.
AI is not wrong because
Yes, it is.
not
Yes, it is.
AI.
Hey,
It's not artificial.
AI is wrong. I don't give a fuck what result came back to you. AI is wrong. You cannot hold the office of president as a convicted felon. You can't even fucking vote as a convicted felon.
That may be true, but you can run for president.
That is incorrect.
Okay, so I'm going to ask now what you call artificial intelligence. I don't call it artificial intelligence. I just call it prediction. Once you understand how
Whatever it is,
are not intelligent.
Whatever it is wrong.
All right, well, I'm going to ask again.
You can ask it all you want. It's wrong. You can't hold the office of president as a convicted felon when you can't even vote for the fucking guy running as a convicted felon if you are convicted of a felony.
You know, one of the important underlying principles of our coexistence is that we're very comfortable with each and the other having certain perspectives. But the only thing I'm doing is if anybody happens to watch, I'm just telling the people who are watching that there are only three requirements.
And AI is wrong.
It's not AI. AI.
The answers that AI are producing in this particular
on transformers.
The answers
what it's doing is it's taking the corpus of human knowledge, which includes discussions around this,
which is wrong.
And it is simply summarizing and regurgitating.
And it's wrong.
And it's not wrong.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Here's the bad news. He can run as a convicted felon.
He can run as an indicted.
No, he can run as a criminal. There are no rules against running as being president. A criminal can be president.
We'll see.
That's a different sentence.
We'll see. We'll see.
I'm sorry.
Because if I even entertain the notion that AI's results
it's not AI,
whatever, that those results are accurate, then laws need to be changed and they need to be changed immediately.
That part I agree with. Which
because
I think that was actually your opening gambit.
If you cannot vote, if you cannot even cast a vote as a convicted felon, it makes absolutely no sense that you can seek the office of the presidency as one. That's ridiculous. There's no way that is. There's no way. There's no way. I don't give a fuck what results came back. No. And if that turns out that I am 100% wrong on that, then we should all be fucking taking these like Colin Kaepernick.
The ability of a convicted felon to vote in federal elections is determined by the state in which they live. There is no uniform federal law concerning the voting rights.
And all 48 states disallow you a vote if you are a convicted felon. This is reality.
Some states restore voting rights upon.
Anyway, I want to move off of that.
Well,
What
I like
what
your
I
original
want-
point. Your original point was valid. Your original point was he should not be allowed to serve as president if he's a convicted felon for sedition. And I completely agree with that.
He should,
I wasn't
whatever.
arguing with your premise. I was just saying, please understand those provisions are not yet made. Should they be made? I think yes.
Immediately.
So we're in agreement.
And
philosophically.
there's
I'm telling you
7.
it's not there
There's
now.
there's 7 federal charges against him, not just sedition. There's 7.
All of which is immaterial because a convicted felon can serve as president. The question would be, can he serve from prison?
He's not going to prison.
Well, okay, when he goes to prison,
He's not going to
first thing
prison.
he's going to do is he's going to put together a choir.
He's not going to prison. He is not going to prison. So
And-
people need to let that one go. He's not going to jail. Old, rich, white men do not go to jail,
Well, you have to think this through.
which again is why Colin Kaepernick took the knee.
All right. Yeah, let's think this through. If I'm a Republican, right,
God help you.
and somebody came to me and they said, in your deepest, darkest desires, what do you want? I think as a Republican, I would be, I wish Trump would go the fuck away. In other words, I think this is actually universal.
It is for a
And
percentage.
it includes, I think, the majority of federal, state, and local elected officials. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's not a smattering of Trumpsters, but I
Within
think
that
all of them would
population.
like to clear the board and go to the next generation of Trumpsters.
Then it's easy. It's easy. If they truly,
No, let me complete my point. My point is that it would be a gift to Republicans as well to take him off the chessboard.
it's easy. Go declare him ineligible to hold office.
Yeah, but the Republicans cannot participate in that declaration. So in my
Why
mind,
not? Why not?
because then they would be exposed.
They're going to be
The reason
exposed anyway.
The reason they don't speak against Trump is because it hurts them with his supporters. So if they can keep his supporters and get rid of him, I'm saying that's a net.
That's not
win.
going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Ask
You can't walk 2 sides of a blade. You can't do it.
ask Nikki Haley, ask Ron DeSantis, ask Mike Pence. All of them would love to see him go away.
Of course.
But they themselves can't participate in sending him away.
Then you are as pathetic as we assume you are.
Do you mean me personally?
No, not you. Not you. Them.
You, them. Well, yes,
Yeah.
yes, the P word applies nicely.
So you're already
They
exposed. You have
want
nothing.
to have the
you're-
votes of these people, but they don't want him in the field. So I'm saying they want him to go away without exerting themselves.
That's not going to happen. You
It
can't
might
walk.
happen.
No,
And
you
here's
can't.
why it might happen.
You can't
I
walk.
think it's highly possible that you would have a lack of support on background where he would not get the kinds of help that he needs from the Republican Party. I can see them, what is it, fish or cut bait? I can see them, that may not be a good example. I think they want him to go away. They want to keep the voters and get rid of him.
That's not going to happen.
I think it might happen. And I
No,
think
it's
they'll
not.
permit it
I'm
to
sitting
happen.
here telling you that's not going to happen.
I think they're going to
So
allow it.
what they need to concentrate on is not that 38%. They need to
Oh,
concentrate.
they cannot leave that 38%. They can't afford to lose it, which is why I'm saying that a Nikki Haley wishes Trump would go away, but she herself is not going to aggressively contribute to his demise.
He's not going.
They don't want to be penalized for hurting Trump. Am I making sense? It's an opinion. I'm not trying to change your mind. Again, it's
No.
just an opinion.
And I'm saying you can't walk on both sides of the blade.
They are walking on both sides right now.
And
They
that's
are in
why,
two places at once.
and that is exactly why decedents, you mentioned polls the other day. I saw a social media post that said he's in the negative numbers right now.
And that's why he is saying that the federal government should not be weaponizing the Department of Justice.
Nobody is weaponizing the Department of Justice.
No, but DeSantis is saying that because
I know what he's saying.
That he supports Trump, which is code for I support Trump voters. They can't be caught out in the open speaking against Trump. Now, we've been through this before. We went through this with Carlson, Ingraham. We went through it with all of them who thought he was a pile of, they thought he was a turd in private, but they kowtowed to him in public. I'm saying that that's universal. I think everybody wants this guy gone.
Then there's only one way that happens. You grow a pair of fucking balls. No. You grow a fucking pair of balls. You step up to the microphone and you say it. And you live with the consequences. If 38% doesn't want to vote for you because you speak out against him, then fuck him.
Okay, when you talk about things that aren't going to happen, you're predicting that Trump won't go to jail. I'm predicting that the people who need that vote will not speak out against him. So that's my prediction. We're doing keyword today. You're doing pathetic, and now I'm doing prediction. So we have different predictions. I'm saying that nobody will step up to the mic and do the thing you just described, except for Chris Christie, maybe.
Then they will be viewed as the pathetic pieces of shit that they are.
Well, Chris Christie is doing the calculus, and he is going to take a crack at this road less traveled.
And he should, because he's got no fucking chance ever of winning the presidency. So what does he have to lose? Nothing.
No, that's actually not true.
Trust me, it is true. Chris Christie can never win.
He has a chance. It's just a very low chance. Things change.
All right, man. I'm gonna let you live in this.
Marlon,
I'm gonna let you live in this fantasy world, man.
No. I got one for you. I got one for you, and you're gonna have to admit that it is a good example of things can change.
All right.
Who was the best president in this century? It's an easy.
Barack Obama.
That's my example of how things can change.
What do you mean?
He was a councilman in Chicago, and he became president of the United States. So what I'm saying is,
let's look at a scale.
I'm not saying that Christie will win. I didn't say that. You
look
said
at a
he has
scale.
no chance, and I'm saying there are a lot of things that can happen.
Look at a scale. Let's put the IQ of Barack Obama on this side. Let's put the IQ of Chris Christie on this side.
I'm not at that level.
Where do you think that scale is going to end up?
Here's what I also believe. This is a belief. I believe that every American has a problem with treason.
I disagree with that.
That is a bridge too far for me. I may
disagree
for you,
with
politics. I may dislike the way they present them, but
it's a bridge too far.
That they would accept treason.
It's a bridge too far for you, but we're dealing with the ignoramus 38% of this country, where it's not even close to being a bridge too far.
Well, you do the I word, I do the E word. And
no, this has nothing to do with entitlement. This has everything to do.
I don't think even, are they Magadonians now? Is that what he calls them?
Whatever they call them.
I don't think even Magadonians will condone treason.
You're wrong. You're wrong. May I remind you, at his rallies, there were multiple instances at his rallies of 38% ignorant ass MAGAs wearing T-shirts that said, "I'd rather be Russian than Democrat."
I'm going to grant you the I word on that one.
So treason is not a bridge.
I don't
treason-
think the average American, which includes some Magadonians, is going to cotton to treason. I think that might be a bridge too far
I
for them.
hope you're right, but I'm going to use the P word and predict that you are wrong because of what I just said.
They're pathetic.
That they would rather be Russian than Democrat. So treason for somebody, an asshole like that, wearing that T-shirt is not a bridge too far at all.
So your statement is correct. I'm hoping that's the case.
It's not going to be the case.
When I wire in my understanding of the American electorate, I actually believe I have found the bottom, and the bottom would be treason. I don't think most Americans, and that includes Magadonians, will accept treason. Now, they might not believe it, which is part of the other problem. But if a Magadonian believes that Trump committed treason, I think they will say, well, you know,
You are so wrong. I love you, but you could not be more wrong.
well, if I'm wrong, then we really have a huge problem.
We
I mean,
really
it's
have a
even
huge
bigger
problem.
than the one we currently have.
We really have a huge problem. Even if they believed it, it's not a bridge too far.
That's an opinion. And mine's an opinion.
Backed by facts of them wearing shirts that say, I'd rather be Russian than a Democrat. So that's backed by fact. Two, if they didn't believe it, or if they found it to be true, they would then play the blame game, which is how they forgive everything he's done to this point.
That's possible. They would say he was framed.
Witch hunt, framed, whatever word you want to use.
Well, Evan Corcoran, apparently, you're aware of this, tape recorded conversations.
Yes. Yeah. Again.
And the notes are derived from and supported by tape recording. Oh, you're going away?
Just 1 second.
All right, take your time.
We know there are tapes. We know this.
Right. And I'm saying that they're going to flip out of the, however Magadonians there are, it's 38% of the electorate, which would be 80 plus 70, 150. So 4 times 15. So that means
this is not a bridge too far for them. There is no bridge too far for them.
Oh, wait a second. No, it would be
when you are in. Let me be very clear with you.
Of the 73.
Let me be very, very clear with you, and why you are wrong. And I don't.
This is why I come here to find out how I'm wrong.
I try and be respectful of your opinion, but you're dead wrong. And here's why. And I'm going to educate you on why you are wrong.
Respectfully.
When you are in a cult, which these people clearly are, treason is not a bridge too far. When you're in a cult, there is no bridge too far, because all you are focused on is drinking the purple Kool-Aid, regardless of the result and outcome.
I want to ask you a theoretical question. Who did the purple Kool-Aid? Was that Jim Jones?
Jim Jones.
All right.
In Guyana.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe that after they drank the purple Kool-Aid, that if half of them had lived, that half would stay in the cult? The
yes.
Half that lived.
Yes.
Okay. To me, that runs counter to everything I know about human behavior.
And that's what MAGA is. Everything counter to normal fucking
Being MAGA behavior. Hasn't cost them yet.
Yes, it has.
It doesn't cost them anything.
Yes, it has. There are people sitting in jail because they're MAGA. January 6th.
So true. But for all of these voters out there, the 38%, the MAGAnoids who didn't actually have enough money to make the trip to ascend the steps to invade the Capitol,
right?
Nothing bad has happened to them.
We don't know. We don't know.
Well, there's
We,
been
we,
no
we, we
cost
don't,
associated with supporting Trump. There's been none so far.
and we don't know.
They're disrespected by libtards and Democrats, which is a badge of honor. I mean, let's be honest.
We don't know.
Let's be honest. When you say something and you get booted off Twitter, you're like, right? I mean, it's a badge of honor. So they have the same.
That's a little
perception.
different. That's a little different. That's a little different.
I'm trying to point out that there's been no cost to Magadonians so far. They have been permitted to support this guy. A few of them have been incarcerated, but the vast majority of them are going about their business. They're assembling in their little churches. They're going to their little bars. They're hanging out on their softball teams. They're hanging out in Iowa. They're hanging out in Wyoming.
Yep. South Dakota, North Dakota.
They're not yet being penalized. The only way to penalize this cult is to start removing representatives from local, state, basically roles of responsibility where they can make policy.
Yep.
It's the only way to hurt them. The only other way would be to go out and physically harm them or affect them individually, which the whole premise of the way we conduct our affairs is you can't do that to somebody for their opinions.
They do.
So at some point.
They do.
Well, hold on.
They do.
Hold on. I want to give you, I want to tie this back to what we were talking about earlier. So I'm going to take Nikki Haley because I see Nikki Haley kind of skating on the line. Actually, I'll do Ron DeSantis. He's a better skater because there's recent evidence of him supporting Trump and saying he should not be pursued by the federal government. But he wants Trump gone. Now, there is no cost to Ron DeSantis at this time to continue to support Trump, keep his supporters potentially in the can to vote for him. If Trump is found to be a traitor and Ron DeSantis makes the same representations, which is, I think it's okay for Trump to be a traitor to the United States. I'm saying that will actually start to cost them. So they're all sitting on the fence hoping he'll go away. And everybody up and down the line, the Republican National Committee, all of these groups, they have not suffered any consequences of remaining ambivalent and essentially sympathizers to the Maganoids. Now, one very good thing happened, and it happened yesterday, and that was the Supreme Court said, listen, this is actually, it was so irrational that irrespective of their leanings, they were like, this is irrational and it's just wrong. And it's so wrong that we're going to support the Voting Rights Act. So that's what I'm saying. Every single participant in this charade is making a calculation, and the calculation is to maximize retention of Maganoid voters, right? Simultaneously, I'm speculating they want Trump to go away. And the only
you can't have both.
Is that to date, nobody has suffered from supporting Trump. Once they start suffering, it'll change.
You cannot have both.
They have both right now.
It's not sustainable.
They have both right now. The only problem is that as long as Trump is in there, they won't, as you say, they won't have a chance of actually ascending to the presidency. They cannot win the primary if Trump is still in there. So when he is accused of treason, which I believe he will be, I believe he will be accused of a variation of treason or being a traitor.
You call me.
All of the money that's incoming from Saudi Arabia and various other parties is becoming increasingly visible. And I'm sorry.
You call me the day the reality of treason being a bridge too far comes ashore.
Well, it'll manifest. Either it will.
That day ain't coming. That day ain't coming.
Well, reminder, I'm not
I
trying to convince you. I'm just saying this is my opinion and this is what I'm hoping.
here. I respect your opinion, albeit wrong. Let me just remind you and bring it full circle to put a bow on this about why I'm saying you're wrong. He can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and never lose support. And he has shot someone on Fifth Avenue since 2016 and hasn't lost any of the 38% MAGA support.
I don't
This is,
understand the sentence, shot somebody on Fifth Avenue.
remember, he made that statement. He can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and
I
never
remember
lose.
the statement well, but to my knowledge, he's
And
never
then that's what he's done that in a
figurative.
figuratively way. He has done that since 2016. This is a great example of that. Treason is shooting somebody in the head on Fifth Avenue. This is not a bridge too far for these people.
Well, I think treason would be. I hope treason. I'm going to change it to hope.
And I would love to share your hope, but I know the reality is it's not a bridge too far. It should be. It would be if we were right now sitting at September 12th, 2001, it would be a bridge too far. We're not sitting at September 12th, 2001. We're sitting at June 9th, 2023. And I am telling you, he's shooting people on Fifth Avenue and they don't care. Which is truly, truly pathetic.
The P word.
Because for years, you went to his rallies chanting lock her up over something that wasn't a crime. Here we have, and this isn't that's, if there's one area that I try and remind people, this is not the fucking DOJ. This is not a witch hunt. This is a grand jury of ordinary American citizens who looked at the data, looked at the facts, and said this man has broken federal law. Period.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter. He has broken federal law that rises to the level of treason, and they don't care.
Well, I thought it was intriguing that they sent this down to Florida.
Yes, I agree with that.
And what are the seven? There were 7 articles. What
Yes, 7 charges.
charges? What are the 7 charges?
I don't know.
I'm not sure they've been revealed.
I don't know, and quite frankly, it really doesn't matter because he's not going to be held accountable to any of them.
Well, I think it may matter, and I can tell you what I'm hoping. Would you accept that I, like everybody else, have no idea what's going on?
Yeah.
So I can then just express a desire or a hope or an opinion. Former President Donald Trump has been indicted on 7 counts of willful retention of national defense information, obstruction of justice, destruction or falsification of records,
Yep.
conspiracy and false statements. So I think those are the aggregate. I think those are the buckets that the specific charges will be in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm not sure what I'm going on here, but I took some joy in the fact that it was going to Florida, and it appears to be exclusively the documents case.
Yes. We haven't even gotten to January 6th and the Georgia.
So I think that January 6th is going to be tied directly to DC.
Yes.
And it sounds as if it's going to be a 1-2 punch.
1, 2, 3.
What's the third one?
Georgia.
Georgia, Fannie Willis. Okay. These federal ones, though, I tend to see them as, well, you know, it's criminal in Georgia, right?
Yes, it
The
is.
New York one was civil.
Georgia and January 6th are both criminal.
And I believe this federal charge is criminal as well.
Is criminal.
So he's been indicted and convicted.
Listen, I hear
of a
what you're
civil
saying.
crime,
I hear
but
what
he's only
you're.
been indicted on a federal.
I hear what you're saying. You, 60s some odd year white male, me, 60 some odd years black male. We're both American. We both believe in our country and our Constitution. And violation in a treasonous act toward that Constitution merits certain level of punishment reaction. We both are in 100% agreement with that. All I'm trying to tell you is this is not a bridge too far for people who would rather be communist than American.
They wouldn't actually rather be communist, but that's beside the point. You know what? I have a way to test this. I crossed paths with an individual that I've had a 20-year relationship with.
Okay.
And he is a tradesman.
Okay.
He has worked with us here at the house starting 20 years ago.
Okay.
I'm very, very fond of him. He is a decent, honorable, honest man. Now, why am I bringing this up here? 2 days ago, we were standing next to his white van, and I can't remember how it started, but he said, I can't believe we're sending all of those weapons to Ukraine. Okay, so when I hear that, that is a Fox talking point.
Yes.
So I did my calculation, and I can safely assume that he's probably going to be more conservative than I am.
Pro-Putin.
I'm not going to go that far. I just said more conservative.
I am. I am.
So here's the drill. I said, oh, so are you of a mind that we shouldn't be helping Ukraine? And he said, well, I think it's a waste of money. And I said, you know, you're absolutely right that that is a concern, because Ukraine in its original state is just as corrupt as Russia. And fortunately, and this is where I'm trying to talk to him like a human being and like a fellow traveler here as a U.S. citizen.
I applaud you.
I said, this is well recognized, and to the U.S. and NATO's credit, they had early negotiations with Ukraine, and Ukraine was requesting money. And the response was, no, we're not giving you any money because you're corrupt. We will give you
a weapon.
Right. So it's roughly analogous to giving a homeless person a sandwich. In other words, you're not giving them money, you're giving them the actual thing that they need, which is substance. And he was receptive to that concept. In other words, we didn't have an argument. I just basically agreed with him that there was a risk that it would be wasted. That's universal. It was recognized, an adaptation was made, and the benefit to the U.S. is that Ukraine is fighting a proxy war that we would have to fight elsewhere and or directly at some point.
Yep.
And he did not push back on that. So I don't think that I would have changed his vote, but on the subject, I think in his conversations, he might have incorporated that with other people he talked to, and it might have softened his resistance to sending weapons to Ukraine. I can do a test. I'm going to bump into him again, and I hope to remember, and I'm going to say, hey, bud, how would you feel about Trump if he was convicted of treason? And I will report back.
I already know the answer to that question, but let's see what you
can't know the answer, and I can't know the answer, which is why we have to ask.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I know the answer to that question.
All
But
right.
let's have you do it. Let's the test case. Let's have you report back. I'm on record June 9th, 2023. Marlon knows the answer to that question.
Just that one? You know, he answered all questions.
To
Like
that one for sure. To that one for sure. And with respect to his softening on the position of Ukraine, if going forward he were outside the bubble, that might be a distinct possibility. But once he goes back into the bubble, his position is not going to soften on that because his mind's going to get poisoned.
I think you must be right. The only thing I was bringing forward was that it was a very civil
Yeah.
and balanced
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
and neither of us retired angry at the other.
Yeah. That's a good
It was
thing.
just an exchange of opinions, and he listened, and then I listened to his opinions as well.
And then he went back into the bubble, and his position is what his original position was. Anything we do is a waste with Ukraine. Because
Well,
that's
quite
what
possible, but remember, you took me down the road to why you respond on Twitter.
Yep.
And it would be synonymous with this dialogue. That's why you do it.
That's why you do it. It's a thankless job, but somebody.
Speaking of which, are you back on Twitter yet?
Let's see. Where am I? Am I nope, 21 minutes.
21 minutes. Who
And
does
I'll
the song Back in the Saddle again? Is that Aerosmith?
Yeah. And at minute 22, I'll be on my third 6-day suspension when I lash out at Twitter for my second 6-day suspension.
Well, that's only the new regime. Didn't you get some suspensions previously?
Yeah, previously, but now it is now, and this is going to be my tweet. Is this a black thing? I mean, come on, help me understand this.
Remind me again. You told me once, and I lose track.
Whatever her name is, Gabriel, whatever the MAGA is, said she will never get vaccinated for COVID ever. And I said,
and then you were like, well,
good.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Because once you get COVID, we'll be done with you.
We'll be done with you. Yeah, I don't know if that's a black thing. And I have supported you.
Yes.
And because we've talked about discrimination, and yes, it is clear you have been discriminated against in different situations. It's crystal clear. So I support it to the extent that
I didn't curse. I didn't
I don't think this is the black thing.
I did. Well, then why did I get suspended for 6 days?
I think it's a Marlon thing.
Yeah, that even better. Even better.
I think you're algorithmically weighted.
Yeah.
Prior.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with you, because
you don't
let's
agree.
Not forget, she showed up in the feed for you. Why are MAGAs even in my For You feed? People have talked about
because they're algorithmically being delivered to you.
Yes.
So that you can go to jail.
Exactly.
So clearly Twitter is a microcosmic example of society at large.
Yes. 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 But it's okay for me to tweet out today in 22 minutes, hey, I support a treasonous president. That's fine. Yeah, Marlon. Yeah, welcome to the club. Let's pop some champagne. Oh, not champagne. Let's pop Coors Light, because we don't drink Bud Light anymore. Let's pop some Coors Light. Marlon supports a treasonous candidate. That's fine. We got no problem with it. We have no problem with that.
What was the one before this one about good? You're not getting the COVID vaccine. It was McEnany, right?
No, it was Laura Ingraham.
Laura Ingraham. Remind me of that one.
Who said of black protesters they
have rhythm.
Yes.
And then there was one other, because I thought that you tweeted something that you were put in jail for, that you could then have sent directly to a liberal public figure host and determined whether you would be algorithmically suspended for saying the exact same thing to somebody who's a liberal.
Yeah, and that never manifested in itself because I just didn't think it was worth the effort because as we now all agree, Twitter has become a cesspool.
Well, I'm fascinated by words and I'm fascinated by hierarchy. Is Twitter the cesspool, or are the people who self-select to go on Twitter the cesspool?
Twitter,
Because a lot of people are not on Twitter.
right?
And the people who go on Twitter to blab, technically they're self-selected.
Technically,
So is this just a byproduct of humanity?
of where we are. Yeah,
They're going to have strong opinions.
it's a reflection of where we are. 62 versus 38. It's a reflection of that.
How many independents are there? Has anybody worked out that number?
Nah.
Well, the elections are going like 51.
You know, there's something that you said. I'm glad I'm really glad you said it because my parents, God rest their soul, are probably rolling over in their graves, which is at Arlington National Cemetery. May I remind every person who has the patience to withstand our entire podcast today. Both of my parents are buried at Arlington National Cemetery. You can't get more patriotic than being buried there. And they are rolling over in their graves that there is even a notion that treason is in 2023 acceptable. And it is.
I'm hoping it's a bridge too far.
You let me know, my friend. When you validate that it is a bridge too far, you call me that day.
Well, you'll know before I will because you'll be on Twitter.
It's not a bridge too far. It should be, but it's not. And that's how sad and pathetic we are and where we have become. There is one positive thing that I haven't been able to comment on it, obviously, because
we're coming up on an hour, so you
I know.
want to finish on a positive?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can't remember his name. And I couldn't respond to it because obviously I was in Twitmo. But this speaks to something that you carry the flag for a lot. The CEO at CNN got ousted. And it is widely believed he got ousted because of that disastrous town hall. That to me, it's too late for you, CNN, because Maya Angelou, you are who you are when you showed us. So we know who you are. But I applaud the effort and steps to oust that CEO because there needed to be a result to that behavior and decision. And we now have it. So that is a good thing. That's about as good as
I don't consider it a moral decision. I consider it a financial decision.
With moral implications.
Well, the moral is afterthought. It's like icing on a cake.
Yeah.
But if their ratings had gone up and they had brought in a bunch of Maganoids,
he'd still be there.
And they moved from, like 800,000 to 1.7 million viewers.
He would still be there.
Slot? No, he wouldn't. He would not be gone. He would be considered a genius with keen insights into the American psyche.
And they would be Fox Light, which is what they are right now.
Right. But the point I'm making is that, in my opinion, the financial implications are what
drove that.
And I think he was also an architect of the streaming. Remember the CNN, the streaming service where they brought Chris Matthews?
Yep.
Not Chris Matthews.
Chris.
Wallace,
Yes.
who used to be a headliner over on Fox
Yep.
at 10
Yep.
a.m. on Sunday,
Yep.
and they managed to off him in about 3 months. And then you remember
If
Caitlin was
that.
going to go over, and they were all going to go over to the streaming thing. And I remember this was back when I still had CNN active on my television. It was CNN, the CNN I'd grown accustomed to for a decade. I logged into it and it was different. It had fewer options. There was a streaming and all these strange things I'd never seen before. I lost interest, and the next time I checked in, there was nothing there. It was just, so I think Lick had basically gone through the arc, and they had deemed that he was a liability, not because of moral reasons. That's just my opinion. So what's
Fair.
CNN going to do now? Are they going to bring back Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo?
I don't give a rat's ass what CNN does from this point forward.
What would you do if they brought back Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo?
I still wouldn't watch. I still wouldn't watch. I don't give a shit about CNN. I haven't watched CNN in almost 2 years now. I don't care. I don't care. You showed me who you are. That's all I needed to see. Now, if you want to go on your rehab tour and bring back Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon, and God bless you, do whatever you think you need to do. But you've shown me who you are.
Well, once they lost Ana Cabrera, you knew.
Now, that's my buddy. That's my buddy.
Well, the thing is that
she acknowledges my tweets to her on CNN or on Twitter.
But the thing about Anna is kind of a sacred cow in the sense that she's like a Kristen Welker. In other words, she just consistently does the right thing. And
she's on the right side of history. She's on the right side of history.
That's actually a very good way to put it, and generally recognized and appreciated for the proper reasons. She can see what's going on behind the scenes.
Yep.
So if we express a preference, it's based on limited information, just the tip of the iceberg. She can see the iceberg, and she's like, "I'm out of here."
I'm good luck with that. I've got my life jacket. I'm in the boat.
Yep, and you know that they were like, "Anna, here, you can do a variety show, 4 hours a day."
I'm out.
You get daycare, a chauffeur. We'll give you a penthouse. And
I am out. I'm out. Hey, I want to close on one more shout out and positive.
All right.
We're at time. And this is a bullhorn that I blow constantly, loudly.
One you get gored on, or one that you like?
That one. Because I'm old school, as I always say.
No.
And when you're old like us, you're wise, right? We are. People might not agree.
Get a second opinion on that.
People might not agree with us, but we're wise. This is what experience brings you. It brings you wisdom.
Yeah, I've had people tell me I'm full of wise. So yeah.
And yeah, I'm full of wise too. And we have an appreciation for things real time, where others who aren't full of wisdom and don't have experience do not.
It's because we're going to die soon, so we're paying attention.
Yes. And so, again, on my bullhorn, I am imploring people to appreciate what we are seeing in Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets.
Have they won yet?
They are up 2-1. Game 3, game 4.
Watch some of it.
Game 4 is tonight in Miami. Critical game for Miami. And because you didn't see game 3, Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray did something that had never been done before in NBA.
I like Jamal Murray. I've watched him play, yeah.
They both did something that had never been done before in NBA postseason play. I don't even know if it's ever been done in an NBA game.
Quintuple triples?
Which is both posted triple doubles.
Triple doubles. I'm being silly. That is actually a big deal.
That when they put up a stat on, I think it was 30 point, 20 point, 10 assist games. There were
30
only,
points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists.
yes, which is what Joker had. There are only two people on that list,
Wilt
and Kareem.
and Kareem. I was going to say the only
You
people.
are in Mount Everest air when you are linked with those two on a performance.
Yep.
And it is, having been a basketball player in my youth, I am just in awe of what I'm seeing.
If I
It
went
just,
out and shot around for 48 minutes with nobody on the court, I wouldn't be able to get 30 points. I wouldn't be able to get my own rebound 20.
no. And you wouldn't even be able to give
I have
10
no assist.
assists. You wouldn't even be able to give 10 assists to yourself.
That's right.
Of all the things that they talk about with Joker, here is the one to me that puts him, and I've now given him the title because he's earned it, a best basketball player on the planet
Right now.
right now. His basketball IQ, it's so off the charts. And it's not just his IQ. His IQ is what drives what I'm about to say now, but you can have great basketball IQ and still make bad decisions on the basketball court. He doesn't make bad decisions. Every decision he makes is the correct one. It's the right one. He just never makes a bad decision.
I can't imagine such a thing making.
It's just, I'm in awe of watching this. I'm literally in awe of
I
watching
only
this.
make the other kind.
So I'm excited for tonight. I'm glad the weekend is here because it has been a rough weekend. Shout out to my son who's celebrating his 2nd year anniversary with his girlfriend. I'm so happy for him. You and I both know it is the female that has saved our lives and rounded us into things that are acceptable human beings. Because without them, we'd be tossed onto the pile because we know who we are. So thank you to all out there who helped mold us into being acceptable human beings, my son included. I'm excited for next week. I know he is due in court on Tuesday.
And they have to read them at that point, right?
They have to read them.
Is it
My hope,
Tuesday AM? Because we're going to talk on Tuesday, right?
yes. My hope is that your hope is realized.
And it's exclusively the Mar-a-Lago.
Yep. I hope you're right, my friend. I'm the pessimist now. I used to be the optimist, but I'm the pessimist. So I hope you're right. We will pick up same bat time, same bat channel, same bat station on Tuesday.
I had to abandon pessimist and optimist, and I came up with cynical idealist.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Tailor-made for me. Hey,
I
before
think
you go, and this will be the last thing with your permission, I just looked down. I looked at the 7 counts, and willful retention of national defense is 10 years. National defense information is 10 years. Obstruction of justice is a maximum of 5 years.
Yep.
Destruction or falsification of records is a maximum of 2 years. Conspiracy, maximum 5 years.
Yep.
False statements, 5 years. So 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12, plus 5 is 17, plus 10 is 27.
Who is the federal employee that's serving time? I think she's still in jail. What was her name?
Was
Whitney?
it a man who became a woman?
No. What was her name? God, for one document. I can't remember her name. We'll pick that up.
And then do you remember the SWAT team taking the guy who released the information onto his gaming Discord server?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, if they have confidence these things have occurred, you end up doing time. If it can be proven, you end up doing time.
I will close out with my text message to one of my partners back east yesterday upon the news.
All right.
He won't serve a day, not one effing day. I'm sticking by that.
All right. Hope springs eternal.
It does.
Toast to you, sir.
My friend, always a joy doing this podcast with you. Always a joy bringing whatever it is we bring to our viewing audience. Hate us, love us, leave us. Find us, Spoutable, Twitter, YouTube, like us, comment us, and more importantly, subscribe to us.
You can actually post this one on Twitter.
I'll be able to do.
Maybe we'll get a viewer.
I'll be able to do. They'll be excited. They know, my Twitter community knows, when we don't hear from Marlon in 6 days, he's in twit mode.
Hey, if you post something on Twitter, can you do an @
Yeah.
and then does that person get it?
Yeah.
Is it different than, in other words, do they have to be following you to get it if you say @
No.
Oh,
No. Because that is a notification to them that they were mentioned in a tweet.
okay. So I could
Like,
send it.
I could Mike Pence, and I'm not following Mike Pence, and cuss him out and tell him that the fly has more integrity than he does. And he would.
I don't think Pence is lacking integrity.
Yeah, he is.
He's lacking spine.
Balls.
Well, I'm going to be forever indebted to him for showing some balls on the floor of Congress. I can't take that away from him. I have good days and bad days, and if you take away the few good things I've done, so if I do one good thing, I'm going to cling to that, and I'm going to do that on his behalf.
It's hard for me to do. It's hard. It is, and I try and acknowledge that, but that gets torpedoed by the fact that this man tried to have you hung.
Well,
and you still refuse to stand up to him. If JD
stand up to him is different, but he
did
honor the Constitution.
If JD Wilson went down to Lafayette Park and got on a microphone and said, "Hey, you know what we need to do? We need to fucking hang Marlon Taylor." Marlon Taylor would not be a fan and supporting JD Wilson going forward. The next time I see JD Wilson, wherever we are, there's going to be furniture moving when I see JD Wilson.
I don't like the example, but it's a pretty specific example. But then, you might want to get my voters. Mm-hmm.
No. I don't want your voters.
You might want to get.
I don't want your voters. I don't want your voters.
I don't want your raggedy asshole.
Now, I would go after your voters because I have no other plan. If I had another plan, I would go out and get new voters, but I don't have a plan. All I have is the flame throwing at the people that I'm running against. I don't have any original idea or thought.
All right. Well, we're starting to fractal and loop, which we used to do all the time, but now
we've gotten better. We've gotten better. We'll close it out. Have a great weekend, my friend.
You too. TGIF,
and we'll catch you on the dark side of the moon next week.
All right, bud.
All right, partner.
Bye.
Bye.